Hi, in this lesson we'll talk about Databricks file system, or DBFS for short. To understand what is Databricks file system, let's take a look at how it works. Every Databricks workspace that you create, Databricks will automatically create a storage account on Azure or a bucket on S3 that is called DB Databricks file system. So every workspace has a Databricks file system. Databricks file system is used internally for your work. It's like, consider it as like your local storage when you work with Databricks. This is where you keep your, data sets before you load it. Maybe temporary files, temp files, maybe job configurations. Maybe if you work to have some scripts before you start the cluster, you wanted your cluster to run some script. We call it init script or initiation script. So you also put it there. So init scripts. Sometimes when you download a result from a query, like you run a query and you wanted to download the results, the temporary query results will be also stored in here in the results. Also, if you have some data that you wanted to be publicly available for the internet, you can also store it there. It's called in the file store. So Databricks file system is basically your scratchbook, the place where you store your temporary files in nature. Databricks should not be the place where you store your production data. Production data should be placed in a different storage account or a different bucket. Because Databricks FS, if you deleted your workspace, your Databricks FS will be also deleted. So you should not store any production data in there. So what you do with production data, you usually need to create your own bucket. If you are in SS3, it will be bucket. If you are in EDLS, you're going to create a storage account. So this is where you store your broad data. So your DBFS is only for the purpose of the kind of files that you're going to use on a day-to-day, temporary in nature, files before you load it, and so on. Databricks file system, you can deal with the Databricks file system as if it's just a normal file system in a Linux environment. So Databricks allows you to write script, like shell script. So you can do ls, you can make directories, you can rm files, you can do like a typical Linux command. How we do that? You can just write fs magic command. It's called an fs file system. Now, when you run Databricks, remember Databricks, in order to do all the commands in Databricks, you have to run everything in a cluster. And Databricks cluster usually have a driver node and some worker node. So this is the driver node, this is a worker node. Because your code is actually running on the driver node has a storage account like attached to it, local SSD storage, let's say. We call this the local storage. Local storage. So now in Databricks, there is two different types of storage. One called DBFS, which is a storage on the cloud storage. And there is the local storage. Whenever you start a cluster, it comes with own SSD, right? So you can actually do files, read file, write file from the SSD. So make this distinction clear, because when you use the Spark commands or you read or write files, you always need to think about, am I writing it to the DBFS or to the local storage, right? This is going to be confusing at times, but if you make this distinction clear, it will be easy for you to remember. DBFS is a cloud storage. Your commands on the driver node, if you use the sh command, measure command, the sh command will be using your local storage, right? To make it simple, Databricks also added a shortcut for DBFS inside the local storage. You do /dbfs folder. So if you /dbfs folder while you do sh, you're actually working against the Databricks file system on the cloud storage. And this is really like brilliant, because you can look at your cloud storage on AWS or S3 as if it's just a local file system. So you can use commands to access it. So make this distinction clear. By Spark function, like spark.csv.read will default to DBFS. If you write a code that says os.read or write from Python, this is default to local storage. So Python commands default to local storage. Spark commands will default to DBFS storage. sh will be local storage. fs will be DBFS storage, and so on and so forth. So make this distinction clear, because I see a lot of people actually confusing between DBFS and the local storage. No, they are two different things. However, you can switch between two. DBFS is the permanent cloud storage. The local storage, if you destroy the cluster, it's gone. If you stop the cluster, it's gone, and so on. Let's demonstrate this on an actual notebooks to make it clear. So if you go to your Databricks environment here, I'm going to create a new notebook. So let's go to the maybe this folder random. I'm going to create a notebook. I'm going to call it DBFS test. I'm going to keep it as Python. It's not a problem. Create. So now it's an empty notebook. Let's see if you create %sh and shift and enter, right? Oh, sorry, I need to put the command. So the ls command. So you see, this is shell script. This is defaulted to the local storage. So it lists everything on the driver node, the SSD drive of the driver node. So this is the stuff on the driver node, right, that are visible to you. However, if you %fs and also issue the same command, you will see this is a DBFS. Again, it will run against DBFS. So see, everything here is prefixed by DBFS. So you are actually running your command against the DBFS. So sh is local storage, fs is DBFS storage. To make it simple for you, Databricks actually made the sh folder /dbfs. So if you run this, there is a directory called /dbfs. If you actually ls this command, this folder, sorry, you should see now the same content as here. However, these are seen from the local storage. They are like mounted inside the local storage. So in other words, Databricks mounted DBFS as a folder inside your local SSD, so you can access it easily without, the hassle of mounting it and so on. So sh works against the local storage, fs works against your DBFS. Now, what are the commands available? We know sh is like a shell script, so pretty much all the Linux commands you can imagine are available to you. But what about the commands for the fs? If you go to Databricks fs, you'll see a set of commands, right, that actually works with Databricks file system. And you can interact with Databricks file system using the %fs. Let's try %fs here. So you should see the Databricks utilities. It's part of the Databricks utilities commands. So you can see Databricks fs.help, and you can see here Databricks fs. There is cb command, copy, head command, ls, make dirs, mounts, move, put, you know, refresh mounts, rm, unmount. This is the commands that you can only use from fs. They are not like everything like the sh, just a limited set of commands that you can use. And by the way, you can also use it from Python, not necessarily fs. You can just use Databricks utils.fs and then the name of the command, so .fs.ls, for example. So this is like a shortcut. So the fs is pretty much like a shortcut for your command. So let's try this command. So it should be the same effect as writing. So if we see here, where is it? So the percent fsls will give you this. You can also do the same with this command. Databricks util.fs.ls, like this, shift and enter, and then you will see a list of files. So dbfs/data, dbfs/databricks dataset. Let's actually talk about what's inside dbfs. dbfs have a set of preloaded folders for you to use. From the list in here, file store is a directory where whenever you upload something from your local disk, or you wanted to expose something to the external, you can put it in the file store, right? Data is like where you place your data files. I think this is not like, doesn't come to the standard. I created this directory, but just for me to test and put some data there. Databricks assets is where there is some preloaded Databricks datasets, or Databricks datasets is like some experimental datasets for you to try and work with. And Databricks results is whenever you wanted to download some of the datasets, like you wanted to download this, you click this download, it temporarily will be stored in Databricks results. And /delta for some delta files configurations. /user, this is where your Hive metastore will be storing the data. But this is pretty much the distinction between Databricks file system, DBFS, and the local file system that comes with your driver node. So make sure this is clear, because if it's not clear, you're going to have a lot of, people try to think a lot about. I think in Databricks documentation, they have a nice diagram that distinguish between both of them. And with this nice table, this is the link of the, this is the title of the page, how to work with file system in Azure Databricks. You can see that %fs is DBFS root, sh is local driver node, and dbutils.fs is the same as fs. Anything Linux will be using the local driver node. Anything Spark will DBFS. And this is an example of how to access which, when should you use DBFS // or use the /dbfs directly. It's a different ways to access the same data on the disk, but just keep it clear because there's a lot of confusion around this one. So that's it for this lesson, and see you in the next lesson.